This is Grace Thornton, and this is my DIY project. I did my project on improving my own personal sleep. The health problem I identified myself as my lack of sleep. In the past month or so especially, have been noticing that I have felt more sluggish. I haven't really had the energy to do the things I usually like to do, like socialize in the evening or go do a workout. I also feel like my daily productivity hasn't been as great because when I come home, I'm tired. I'm very limited in what I want to do and have the energy to do. And I feel like my cognitive function has been decreased, that when I wake up and go to work, I'm not as sharp as I normally would be. And then coming home and trying to do homework and work on school things, same thing. I just feel like my brain's running slower than what it normally would. Um, and I also have felt that it can impact my mood. Like I might be a little less impatient, or it might be a little more apathetic. And this lack of sleep kind of is creeping into all these different facets of my life, and it felt like a really good health behavior problem to change. And in terms of past attempts to solve this problem, I wouldn't say that there's been a specific attempt. I've almost every day I say, okay, tonight's the night I'm gonna get really good sleep, and then tomorrow I'll be back on track. But it just never quite works out. So my hypothesis for this problem kind of turned into, if I could have a kind of set structure, maybe a consistent wake up time and like decreasing screen time before bed, if that could improve my sleep. Because I feel like screens can keep me up because the light kind of tricks my body thinking it's daylight, and it's easy to lose track of time on a screen, whether it's like a phone or computer or a TV. Um, so those were kind of my platforms for this project. The theories that I am using for this were the health belief model and stimulus control. With the health belief model, I went through and kind of filled out the different components of it just to kind of see where I'm at in terms of like susceptibility and severity, benefits, barriers, cues to action, and self efficacy. The cues to action and self efficacy were two of the biggest things to kind of help me with coming up with questions for my questionnaire and doing some self reflection to see what realistically could help me improve my sleep. And stimulus control, that is a theory that currently is used to help people with insomnia. And insomnia is a formal diagnosis, and you have to meet certain criteria. And I don't consider myself someone who has insomnia because I feel I can fall asleep and stay asleep. I just don't get enough sleep. So I pulled from that stimulus control for insomnia, and the point of it is to make the bed and bedroom a stimulus for sleep rather than stress. Because sometimes if I find myself staying up later than I had hoped, and then I get a glimpse of the bedroom or the bed, and I get a little bit of anxiety and stress thinking about, oh, I wish I was in bed right now falling asleep, but I'm not. I'm doing this other thing, or I've wasted time doing this thing, and it can become more anxiety producing than calming and getting ready for bed type of atmosphere. So, in that stimulus control mindset, I kind of mentioned before, but two of the stimulus that I wanted to focus on were electronics and having a consistent wake up time. In the stimulus control for insomnia, they talk about having like setting your circadian rhythm and waking up consistently so your body kind of gets used to it. So I wanted to set a consistent wake up time for myself during the week, and then I personally feel like electronics keep me up later or longer than I would hope, so I wanted to cut back on that. So those were two of my kind of variables I wanted to change. I came up with a SMART goal, and that is to increase my number of sleep hours during weekdays. I will turn off screens 1 hour before 10 p.m. bedtime and wake up at 6:15 a.m. on weekdays. And I really liked making this SMART goal because it gave me specific structure. Specifically, I wanted to increase my number of sleep hours during the week, measurable. I wanted to get 8 or more hours of sleep on average, Monday through Friday. I wanted to be able to kind of improve my cognitive function and have more energy, so it was relevant, attainable, because it was kind of making almost three changes, three changes if you count a 10 p.m. bedtime as one. But it gave me a specific framework to work in, and I feel like that helped give me structure. And then it also gave structure to help me come up with my questionnaire. And the questionnaire that I came up with, I kind of pulled ideas from sleep questionnaires that are currently used, and those are like the sleep quality questionnaire, the Epworth sleepiness scale, and the Pittsburgh sleep quality index. And they all require self-reporting, and they all have some component of generating a score. So the person answers like 0 through 5 or 1 to 3, and it creates a numbered score, and then you add that up and it assesses your sleep quality. And for my purposes, I didn't want to create a whole numbering scoring system, because I'm doing this single study design for myself, and knowing myself, I didn't want to have to add up numbers as I was going through this. So I just tried to keep it as simple as possible. So I wanted to be able to kind of measure my two stimuli that I was going to be altering. So 6:15 wake up time, and then not doing screens after 9 p.m. at night. And I wanted to be able to see if I was doing those things, and then see if they were impacting my sleep and even level of tiredness the way that I would hope they would, and that increase my sleep and decrease my level of feeling tired. So my first and second questions were exactly that. Did I wake up at 6:15 this morning? Yes or no? Did I abstain from screens beginning at 9 p.m. last night? Yes or no? Just very simple. Either I did it or I did not do it. And then questions 3 and 4, I did a scoring system, and 0 being not tired, 5 being very tired. How tired did I feel around noon today? 0 being excellent, 5 very poor. How do I feel about my time of sleep last night? So I wanted to put in a little bit of a scoring system so I could almost reflect back on my stimulus and if that was impacting the way that I hoped it would. Now my study design, I did the ABB design, so I did 1 week of no intervention. And during that week, I was just kind of establishing my baseline of how much sleep was I getting without doing any sort of changes. And it's an app called Sleep Cycle, and it basically is an alarm. So you turn it on when you're getting into bed to fall asleep, and then it's alarm in the morning, and then it can kind of track how long you've been in bed and how many minutes of sleep that you've been. So after doing that for 5 days, like Monday through Friday during the week, I was able to pull the data from the Sleep Cycle app into the Quantified Self app, and that helped me extract kind of those averages and that data. and it told me that on average, Monday through Friday, no intervention, I was getting about 6 hours of sleep, and I was in bed for about 6.5 hours. So it was taking me maybe about like 30 minutes to fall asleep. Um, and then my questionnaire during my no intervention week, I filled it out Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And just to kind of assess, like Monday, I've had the weekend to kind of get things in line and hopefully went to bed decent Sunday night. Wednesday's kind of halfway through the week, and then Friday, kind of the end of the week. How are things wrapping up? Um, and so I have down here at the bottom my questionnaire. And did I wake up at 6:15 this morning? Every single day, no, I did not. Did I abstain from screens beginning at 9 p.m. last night? Every single day. Or Monday, Wednesday, Friday? No, I did not. And then ranking my level of being tired. Monday, I put about a 2, so almost in the middle. And then my time of sleep, how did I feel about it? By the end of the week, I felt very poor. Like I had a lot of room of improvement to get some more sleep. Now, these are the results after doing my 2 weeks of intervention, but I'll kind of break it up the first week of intervention and then the second week of intervention. And keeping in mind up top, I have um, my no intervention results, and then can kind of compare them as the weeks go on. So my first week intervention, I was setting my alarm to wake up at 6:15 every single morning. I was not setting like a backup snooze alarm because if I do that, I'm more prone to hit the snooze button. So I'm just setting the one alarm to go off. That way I know when I hear it, I'm like, okay, that's my one and only alarm. Like I need to get up now. So for the first week, I did that, and every single day, um, set 6:15 alarm, and you can see the first week of intervention Monday, the alarm was set, didn't quite make it up at 6:15, but the other days I did, and the decreasing my use of the screen, I abstained from screens beginning at 9 p.m. last night. The first week intervention on Monday, yes, I did, but Wednesday and Friday, no, I did not. And there, I can't quite remember if there's a specific correlation to that. I might have felt that I was doing well waking up at 6:15 and I was giving myself a treat by staying on a screen longer. I can't exactly remember. Um, but you can see as the week goes on that my um, how I felt about the prior night's sleep. I started to not feel as great by Wednesday and Friday of the first week of intervention, 5 being felt like there was a lot of room for improvement. And I want to attribute that to, waking up consistently at 6:15. So in theory, I could have been getting less sleep or feeling more tired, but using Sleep Cycle, it was telling me that I was getting actually more hours of sleep. So I started out getting 6 hours on average Monday through Friday, and that week I got 7. Um, so even though I wasn't doing, I didn't really do the no screens, I still saw an improvement, possibly because I was trying to hit that 10 p.m. bedtime. And that's one thing that could have accounted for in my questionnaire, but I didn't. So that's almost like missing data. And then my second week of the intervention, kind of reflecting back at my first week of intervention and where I kind of scored myself with that, I really wanted to try to do better with the screen time because that seems like such an easy thing to fix. And sometimes I think it was working on homework and I ended up staying up later, so it involved a little bit more of scheduling and planning. But I really wanted to work harder at doing that. So the second week of intervention, I set my alarm at 6:15 every morning. I was waking up at 6:15. It got a little bit easier, and then almost, 2/3 of the time I did abstain from no screen after 9 o'clock. And overall, my sleep seemed to have improved. I didn't feel as tired during the weekday, like around noon when I was kind of checking in with myself. I didn't feel as tired, and I felt like my amount of sleep was improving. And according to the sleep cycle, the average minutes of sleep increased another 30 minutes and went up to 7.5. So overall, I was able to improve my amount of sleep and had a little bit of um, correlation between waking up at 6:15 and then abstaining from a screen that might have been going along with that. But, of course, limited data, and I'm just one person, so it's hard to pinpoint and say for sure. So, in conclusion, with this single case design study that I did, by the end of intervention week 2, I did increase 1.5 hours of sleep per night on average, which was great. I was more consistent waking up at 6:15 during the week. And on average, I did feel less tired in the afternoon and more satisfied with my prior night's sleep. And that kind of makes sense. If I'm getting more sleep, then I will feel less tired and then feel better about that sleep, um, which is great. And while this, I created it for myself by myself, so I'm not going to call this a totally watertight study. I do think, there are more questions and more data that could be collected, especially with like what time was I trying to go to bed, like that 10 o'clock. I didn't really track that um, at all. It just was kind of in my goal in my head. Um, so I feel like there's, more that can be done with this type of questionnaire and study moving forward to do it on like more people to use it and just gather more data and see, across different populations and people if it's something that actually tracks change or if it enacts change and just kind of do more information gathering. And another potential use that I thought of was using similar questions and monitoring for exercise. So if people, if you were someone who wanted to exercise more, you could set a specific goal and maybe use stimulus control to motivate that, such as wearing like exercise shoes if you wanted to get more steps in the day. If you made a goal to, I am going to put on comfortable exercise shoes every Saturday, then it might increase your number of steps and increase your physical activity. So that was just one brainstorming idea that I had. And in terms of the kind of pass, the practicality of this study was that it was simple to use, it's inexpensive, it did show improvement, um, applicability. It could be used across a variety of people and environments. It didn't really require that I be in any sort of specific setting. It didn't require that I be a specific type of person. And sensitivity, it does capture if the screen time limit is being followed and the consistent wake up time, but it didn't really track if I was hitting that 10 o'clock bedtime and if that correlated to more hours in sleep, which you could infer that it did, but didn't specifically track that. And then it does capture if screen time limit and wake up time goal are not being met, because it forces you to say, yes, I did this, or no, I did not do this. And those are two things that would negatively impact the overall goal to get more sleep. Like if I was not waking up at 6:15, then that might mean I was staying up later and sleeping in later, or staying up later and still waking up early, not getting, like, not netting more sleep, if that makes sense. Some challenges with this is I was forced to self-report, so reflecting on my level of tired that afternoon, I tried to really think about, am I physically, mentally tired, and kind of not take into play what was going on at work that day or where I was. Sometimes it's easy to not realize you're tired if you're busy with things. So that is kind of a limitation and a challenge, is just trying to gauge what is tired. And I was dependent on a mobile device. I did use my phone to track my sleep and then to extract the data. So you do need some kind of access to a mobile device from that perspective. And then another one are just, life happens and things come up in the middle of the week and the evening that might impact how much sleep you get. And so this, my questionnaire didn't really account for outside forces like that. They didn't have any place if you could write in, you know, if I didn't go to bed at 10 o'clock or if I didn't hit that screen time goal, why? It didn't have any gray area that you could almost write in and do a little caveat. And then motivation and self efficacy are always things that I think people could battle with. I mean, you can set simple, specific, measurable, attainable seeming goals, but if you're not motivated to work towards them, it's just not going to happen. And then, kind of same thing with self efficacy. If you don't feel like you can do it, then you probably aren't going to try. And these are my references I used kind of for looking up background of stimulus control and kind of the sleep and insomnia and all my references. If anyone has questions, let me know. It was a good experiment for myself and I learned a lot. Not by any means a perfect design, so if anything is unclear, if you have questions about any of the theories, let me know.